I thought that most of you would be very interested in another case very similar to that of Sharon Otieno, yeah, where a woman was murdered. Yeah, it also involved politicians, okay, where a woman was murdered, and 40 years later, no justice. I'm telling you, this Kenya of ours. Now, of course, this is the same thing a lot of Kenyans are predicting. Those who know Kenya well, those who know what happens in this our country that we love so much, are predicting that the Sharon Otieno case, mpende mspende, at the end of the day, there'll be no justice. There'll be no justice for the poor family of Sharon Beryl Otieno. Now, I'm hoping against hope that this time many people will be proved wrong. I'm praying against all hope, yeah, that justice will be done this time round. That the family of the late Sharon Otieno shall receive justice. Anyway, on to this case. Now, this one happened in March 1978. Now, you might say, oh, what was happening those days? But you're going to be surprised because there are a lot of similarities, very striking similarities, with the Sharon Otieno case. Now, I know that many of us who take in this channel are aware of Ngei Estate. So next time you pass that estate and you pass house number 64, you'll have a history of that house, because that is where the subject of this fascinating case that held Kenyans spellbound for over a year used to live. Yeah, in that house lived a drop-dead gorgeous, very beautiful army captain called Judy Angaine. On March 30th, 1978, the body of Judy Angaine, or Captain Judy Angaine, was found in the bathtub, floating, and the bathtub was overflowing. Actually, the water even reached the door, so that the first people to come to the house and discover the body were first met with the water flowing from under the door outside the house. Now, I'm not sure if they still have bathtubs in Ngei Estate, yeah, but bathtubs are the places where you sit down, fill it with water, and have a bath. Many younger Kenyans have never even seen a bathtub in their whole entire life. That's a fact. The captain was naked on the bathtub, and moving to her bedroom, it was in a mess. Clearly, there'd been a struggle in there. The government pathologist at that time, Dr. A.L. Ribeiro, yeah, after conducting the post-mortem, said that she had died from being strangled. Asphyxia, yeah. And before she had died, she had been sexually assaulted. Raped, if you like. Now, at the time of her death, President Jomo Kenyatta, founding father of the nation, was president of the country. But by the time the murder trial of the person who was charged with her murder ended, yeah, about 2 months after August, yeah, Kenya had a brand new president, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. Anyway, about a month after the body of Judy Angaine had been first discovered, a soldier, a major in the army, a Major David Kimeu Kisila, was arrested and charged for the murder of Judy Angaine. Now, this was very sensational news in a case which was already proving to be extremely sensational, yeah, as far as Kenya was concerned. Kenya had never seen such a big murder trial since that one of Nahashon Jenga, the man accused of shooting Tom Mboya, yeah, in 1969, and this was 1978. Now, one of the reasons for this is that Judy Kaburu Angaine was no ordinary lady. Yeah, apart from being a captain in the military, she was the daughter of a very senior cabinet minister, a man called Jackson Harvest Angaine, who had been a cabinet minister since independence. He was referred to as the King of Meru, yeah, because he had no competitor as far as Meru politics was concerned. He totally dominated it till his death. Indeed, many Nairobians refer to this case as Kesi ya Wakubwa, yeah, loosely translated, the case of big men. And we shall find out why in a moment. But for starters, the late Judy Angaine was not just a daughter of a nobody. Yeah, we've already established that. Now, I was a very young boy at the time, but I remember my political lecturer telling me that this major in the army, David Kisila, had sold some family land up country in order to afford to hire a very expensive and a very renowned lawyer in Nairobi to defend him. A lawyer who had never lost a single case, and he always took big cases, yeah, murder, etc., etc. The name of that lawyer, indeed a legend in the corridors of justice in Kenya, was Byron Georgiadis. Now, Georgiadis did not have a big reputation for nothing, and in this case, he did not disappoint, and I shall talk about his strategy in a minute. Now, the prosecution's case against Major David Kisila was mainly circumstantial. And of course, one of the biggest things was a motive. He had a motive. You see, at the time of the death of Captain Angaine, the major and the captain, Judy Angaine, were living together in a kind of come we stay arrangement in that Ngei Estate house number 64. They had 2 joint accounts together, and they even had a mortgage together. And indeed, in one of those accounts, bank accounts, the late Judy Angaine had signed herself as Mrs. Judy Gloria Kimeu. Yeah, Kimeu was the middle name of David Kisila. Major Kisila told the court that he was deeply in love with the late captain. In fact, the only thing that had stopped them from getting officially married was that the lady's father had failed to give his consent. And he had failed to give his consent without actually saying no. What he had said is that it was okay, yeah, the major would go ahead and marry his daughter, but he could only do it after the daughter retired from the military. Hiyo kali kweli. Now, in those days, it was taboo to get married without the permission of the parents. Yeah, so the two loved each other, so they just moved in together. So back to the prosecution case. Now, something very interesting had happened the night before Judy was murdered. She had returned from a trip out of town and had gone straight to her dad's office, who was then the Minister of Lands and Settlement. And after she came out of her dad's office, she met yet another cabinet minister, a man called Paul Ngei. Paul Ngei offered her a lift, and she accepted. And the two ended up back at her place, where Judy's husband, come we stay husband, found them drinking whiskey. Yeah, Cabinet Minister Paul Ngei and Captain Judy Angaine. Now, folks, impunity with people's wives started a long time ago, because Bwana Kimeu seemed to be completely powerless in this situation. Because after those drinks in his house with the cabinet minister, his wife, Judy Angaine, left with the minister for more drinks at Langata Club and Woodley Club, leaving the husband at home. Obviously, he was not invited for this drink. Gosh. Now, fascinatingly, when his wife got back home later that night, she was injured. Yeah, she had been involved in a car accident. And what is even more mind-boggling was how the accident happened. According to Judy Angaine, what had happened is that as Cabinet Minister Ngei was driving her back home, he attempted to touch her breasts after proclaiming his love for her, his love for a married woman. Now, according to what Judy told her husband, yeah, she resisted, yeah, and as they wrestled, yeah, her resisting him holding her, and Ngei insisting on holding her, the car lost control and overturned 3 times. And a good Samaritan drove her home. She was still in pain, so her husband took her to hospital, where she was treated, and they returned home. And although she was still in pain, she slept till the next morning. Now in the morning, she was still in pain, and the husband looked at her condition and decided that she had to be returned to hospital. But the captain was stubborn. She refused to go back to hospital. She gave her husband some keys to take to her workplace and to make excuses for her. And it also included a note excusing herself, yeah, saying that she was not going to be able to come because she was involved in an accident. But very, very strange, yeah, Judy Angaine also said that she was expecting a visitor at 10:30 a.m. But she did not reveal who this visitor was. And Major Kisila decided to go and talk to one of her sisters. Those days there were no mobile phones. And bring back the sister with him so that they convince Judy Angaine to go back to hospital. And when he came back with Judy's sister is when they found the body. They found her dead in the house. Now the prosecution said they had a case because here there was a case of jealousy. Yeah, the man's wife had been taken out by a cabinet minister. Therefore, Bwana Kisila, according to the prosecution, had a very big motive for murdering his wife. But it was all circumstantial because in those days there was no DNA. Because had there been DNA, it would have been very easy. Yeah, she was sexually assaulted, so it was just a matter of getting the DNA samples and comparing them to a suspect, and they would easily get their man. Now, to many who were following the case at the time, the case of the state looked quite strong and difficult to defeat. But then Byron Georgiadis got to work, and he used a very effective strategy used by defense lawyers all over the world in murder cases. To convict a person of murder, there must be zero doubt. There should be no doubt. Okay? So the strategy is to create doubt by actually creating other possible suspects. Unfortunately for Georgiadis, Judy Angaine's character and her lifestyle made it very easy for him to do that. And he started by producing a Valentine's Day's card, yeah, sent to a Joseph Lithimbi. Yeah, Joseph Lithimbi was actually the father of Judy Angaine's 9-year-old son. Then he also highlighted the Paul Ngei connection, yeah, the incident and drama, yeah, that involved Cabinet Minister Paul Ngei the very previous day to Judy's death. Now, apparently, Judy had love affairs with several men at the same time, because there was yet another man in the picture. Indeed, yet another cabinet minister. The name of that cabinet minister was Jeremiah Nyaga. Yeah, the Jeremiah Nyaga was a lover to Judy Angaine as well. But what really saved Major Kisila from the gallows was the very careful timelines that Byron Georgiadis created and got witnesses to back up, yeah, including even a colonel at Kimeu's office who saw him at 8:30 that morning. To cut a long story short, given the timelines, it was not possible for Bwana Kimeu to get the window of opportunity to murder his wife. Secondly, there was also clearly a struggle. Yeah, she was strangled and she was a soldier. So it could not have been easy. There was definitely a major struggle. And even the bedroom had evidence to suggest that there was a major struggle in that bedroom before she was transferred to the bathroom. And Major Kisila was examined carefully. He had no scratches, nothing on him to prove that actually there had been a struggle. And so Kisila was acquitted. And unfortunately, today, 40 years later, we still don't know who murdered Judy Angaine. However, a lot of circumstantial evidence points at Paul Ngei. Using his power as a minister then, he was not really interviewed by the police. And Paul Ngei had quite a history with women, yeah, including violence. Yeah, violence was involved in some of his history with women. Because, for instance, he was expelled from Makerere College after he knifed a fellow student and they were fighting over a woman. You could hardly blame the police at the time because in those days, Paul Ngei was untouchable. Yeah, very close to President Jomo Kenyatta. They had been in Kapenguria together. Anyway, this is one cold case that will probably never be solved because Paul Ngei passed on. Many of the people involved passed on. However, Major David Kimeu Kisila returned to the army, yeah, and he climbed through the ranks and retired when he was a lieutenant colonel many years later. Now, one of the many similarities between this case and that of the late Sharon Otieno are moral issues. Some Kenyans have failed to understand that murder is murder, yeah, and especially when you murder a woman, it doesn't matter what kind of woman she was. You have murdered her. and therefore under the law, you must face justice. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.